Police! My baby's been kidnapped!
Alright, ma'am, need to calm down.
Okay.
Alright, take a deep breath. What do you mean your baby's been kidnapped?
I just got up to wake my son up. My garage door was wide open. My house to my door was wide open, and my baby's gone out of the crib.
How old is your baby?
My baby is 5 months old. Oh, God, help me.
On June 27, 1997, in Florida, United States, Sabrina Aisenberg was born to Marlene and Steve Aisenberg. She was the youngest of 3 children, with 2 older siblings, William, born in 1989, and Monica, born in 1993. Marlene and Steve married in 1987 and were both working in the real estate sector, which allowed them to settle with their children in a comfortable 4-room ranch-style house in a residential area of Valrico on the outskirts of Tampa, Florida. Those who knew the Aisenbergs described them as the picture of a perfect family, and they were overjoyed when Sabrina was born. Sabrina quickly became the center of attention, and her older siblings adored her. She was described as a cheerful and calm child. According to Marlene, Sabrina began sleeping through the night soon after her first month, making her an easy baby to care for. By November 1997, when Sabrina was just 5 months old, she had started crawling. Marlene, with William's help, would encourage her to move on her own, and the family captured tender moments on video, unaware of the tragedy that would soon unfold. On November 23, 1997, life in the Aisenberg household proceeded like any other. It was a quiet evening, and Marlene put Sabrina to bed, covering her with a blanket, turning off the light, and leaving her peacefully sleeping in her crib. After spending time with her other children, Marlene and Steve decided to head to their own bedroom to rest. Before going to bed, Marlene made a quick visit to Sabrina's room to check on her one last time. She was reassured to see her daughter sleeping soundly. Early the next morning, on November 24th, just 3 days before Thanksgiving, Marlene got up at around 6 a.m. to wake her older children for school. However, as she walked through the kitchen, she noticed the garage door was open and the door leading from the garage to the porch wasn't locked. Alarmed, she immediately checked on her children. When she entered Sabrina's room, she was met with a terrifying sight. The baby was gone. The blanket that Marlene had covered her with the previous night was missing too. Marlene screamed, waking Steve, who rushed to her side. Together they searched the entire house and the yard, but there was no sign of Sabrina. At 6:42 a.m., Marlene called 911 to report her daughter's disappearance. In a frantic and breathless voice, she explained to the operator that her 5-month-old daughter had vanished from her crib. The 911 call was recorded and played at the beginning of this video. Within minutes, Sheriff's Office agents arrived and cordoned off the scene. They began searching the area while taking the testimonies of the parents and neighbors. Hours later, FBI agents and officers from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement joined the search. With the help of volunteers and trained dogs, they scoured a nearby forest, looking for any clue. Helicopters were deployed to conduct aerial searches, and forensic investigators combed through the house, searching for evidence. During their investigation, authorities discovered an unidentified blonde hair and a shoe print near Sabrina's crib. They also found 7 fingerprints from unknown individuals in different locations around the property. Despite these clues, Sabrina's whereabouts remained a mystery, and the family's seemingly perfect life was thrust into the center of a criminal investigation. Almost immediately after Sabrina's disappearance, posters began circulating with a photo of the baby and a description stating they were searching for a white girl, 5 months old, weighing 9 kilograms, with blue eyes. The description detailed that at the time of her disappearance, Sabrina was wearing lavender pajamas with a floral print, and her blue and yellow blanket with animal figures and trim was also missing. That same night, Steve and Marlene appeared on television, reporting their daughter's alleged kidnapping and begging for her safe return. The following day, specialised divers joined the search effort and began combing a pond near the Aisenbergs' home. By then, investigators had started to grow suspicious of the couple. Their statements appeared contradictory and their behaviour didn't align with that of parents whose child was missing. Authorities noted there were fewer photos of Sabrina in the house compared to her siblings, and no evidence of forced entry, nor a ransom note or any phone calls demanding money. Their suspicion deepened when a home video recorded shortly before Sabrina's disappearance revealed that the baby had visible bruises and was missing a lock of hair. FBI agents and sheriff's officers subjected Steve and Marlene to intense interrogations. The first topic they questioned them about was the open doors, to which the Aisenbergs explained that their neighbourhood was considered safe, and they sometimes left doors and windows open overnight. Police raised doubts, however, as neighbours had reported several attempted break-ins in the area recently. They also asked how it was possible that an intruder could enter the house and take Sabrina without waking anyone. Furthermore, they were puzzled that the family's dog Brownie hadn't barked during the incident. The Aisenbergs explained that they had slept in the master bedroom, which was far from the children's rooms, so they couldn't have heard anything from that side of the house. At this point, Steve and Marlene realised that investigators were treating them as suspects, so they hired renowned lawyer Barry Coe and stopped answering the authorities' questions. A neighbour later came forward, telling police that on the night of Sabrina's disappearance, his dog had woken him up, prompting him to let it out. When he opened the door, he claimed to have heard a baby crying. He initially downplayed the sound, but later reconsidered when his wife informed him of Sabrina's disappearance. In his statement, the neighbour noted that there was no fence between his property and the Aisenbergs, allowing anyone to walk through easily. After her husband's death, the neighbour repeated his account to a private investigator hired by the Aisenbergs. Despite this, detectives maintained their focus on the parents. On December 12, 1997, the State Circuit Court authorized the installation of listening devices in the Aisenbergs' home and the interception of their phone calls. The affidavit provided to the court claimed the police had reason to believe that the Aisenbergs had either killed or sold their daughter. The court approved the request, and on December 13th, detectives installed electronic devices in the family's home in Valrico. Unaware of the new surveillance measures, the Aisenbergs continued to seek public assistance and kept their case in the media spotlight. On December 22nd, nearly a month after Sabrina's disappearance, they held a vigil attended by dozens of people, which attracted the attention of television networks and news programs. On January 9th and February 6th, 1998, police requested an extension of the surveillance, basing their request on supposed transcriptions from the initial wiretaps. A paediatrician had allegedly said Sabrina had a bump around one eye and was missing a lock of hair. The family's hairdresser reportedly also stated that Sabrina was missing hair at the time of her disappearance. In one audio recording dated November 23, 1997, Marlene allegedly told her husband that the baby had died and that Steve had told her there was nothing he could do about it. The two were said to have argued about how to avoid prosecution. As investigators continued gathering evidence against the Aisenbergs, on January 30, 1998, they were subpoenaed to testify before a grand jury. The couple invoked their Fifth Amendment rights and, although they were forced to appear, refused to answer most of the questions. Police had recorded the couple for 79 days, and by March 2nd they had collected 2,600 conversations across 55 audio recordings, which investigators claimed were irrefutable proof of the Aisenbergs' guilt. By this time, Sabrina's disappearance had become national news, one of the most notorious cases in the country. After the media frenzy became unbearable, Steve and Marlene moved to Steve's childhood home in Bethesda, Maryland, hoping to escape the press and provide a quieter environment for their older children. However, their new life wasn't easy. They struggled to find employment and continued to face suspicion from the community, which had not forgiven them for the alleged crime. Things worsened on September 9, 1999, when a federal grand jury indicted Steve and Marlene for conspiracy to make false statements and 6 counts of making false statements to law enforcement officers during the investigation. The couple was arrested in Maryland, with Marlene facing a 30-year prison sentence and Steve potentially serving 20 years for allegedly conspiring and lying about their daughter's disappearance. However, they were never charged with causing Sabrina's death, and the case against them began to collapse. In February 2000, the Aisenbergs filed a motion to suppress the recordings and transcripts obtained from the wiretaps, arguing that they were based on false statements. A year later, in February 2001, a judge ruled that investigators had lied in their request to install the microphones in the Aisenbergs' home and intercept their phone calls. The judge found that most of the audio recordings were inaudible, and the statements made by the pediatrician and hairdresser had been misquoted or taken out of context. None of the recordings matched the transcripts of the couple's conversations, and therefore the judge ruled that they were not valid evidence against the Aisenbergs. In July 2001, Marlene and Steve were acquitted of all charges. The lead prosecutor was downgraded in 2003, and the Aisenbergs' attorneys filed a civil lawsuit against the sheriff's office and federal prosecutors for malicious prosecution. Initially, the Aisenbergs were awarded damages between $2 million and $900,000, but the amount was later reduced to $1.5 million. The couple sued again, accusing prosecutors of conspiring to deprive them of their civil rights, lying and fabricating evidence. In 2004, the case was dismissed, and the judge ruled that prosecutors had immunity from such lawsuits. 2 years later, a similar lawsuit against the sheriff's office was dropped. Meanwhile, the investigation into Sabrina's disappearance had stalled until April 2003, when a woman in Michigan saw the missing persons poster and noticed a resemblance to a girl living in Illinois. When the Aisenbergs were shown a photo of the child, identified as Paloma, they agreed she resembled Sabrina. Reports indicated that Paloma had been taken to Texas across the Mexican border by a teenager who claimed to be her mother. The teenager handed the girl over to a woman named Molly Garza, who was about to be deported to Spain. Molly left Paloma with a friend who worked at an immigrant clinic, and the girl was eventually adopted by the sister of the clinic's nurse. The couple in Illinois who raised Paloma attempted to adopt her legally, but could not due to missing documents. They were assigned legal guardianship while they sought to identify her parents. Unfortunately, DNA tests revealed that Paloma was not Sabrina, and her true parents' identity remains a mystery. In August 2005, Marlene and Steve Aisenberg met with detectives from the sheriff's office to discuss the case of their daughter Sabrina, and offered to cooperate with the police, who were looking to reopen the investigation. Both were questioned once again and underwent polygraph tests, although the results were never released to the public. Steve and Marlene maintained that they passed the tests. The case took a new turn in 2008, almost 11 years after Sabrina's disappearance, when an inmate named Dennis Byron claimed to have information related to the case. According to the informant, his partner, Zelda Scott Oberbeck, who was incarcerated on weapons charges, had been paid to retrieve a boat containing Sabrina's body and dispose of it in the sea near the Courtney Campbell Bridge in Tampa. Sabrina's parents were interrogated once again, but they publicly stated that the informant's claims were false, as they never owned a boat. This was never confirmed by the police. Time passed without any further clues about Sabrina's fate, but her parents did not stop their efforts to find her alive. Colin McNally of the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children created an age-progressed image of Sabrina based on photos of her older siblings, which was periodically updated to show how she might look as she grew older. After almost 2 decades since Sabrina's disappearance from her crib in Tampa, Florida, her parents were faced with the possibility of having found her. In addition to the Paloma incident, at least 2 young people came forward claiming they believed they were Sabrina. One of the girls, who contacted Marlene via social media, was close in age to Sabrina and shared a similar birthday. She also felt there were gaps in her past, as there were no childhood photos of her, and she had recently discovered that her social security number was linked to a woman in California. However, this potential lead was ruled out. Despite continuing with their lives, the Aisenbergs hold on to hope of one day reuniting with their youngest daughter. The family has registered with several DNA databases in hopes of finding a match. In their Maryland home, they maintain a room that serves as a sanctuary, containing baby clothes and toys that Sabrina never used. A photo of the little girl is displayed throughout their home. At the time of this video's broadcast, Sabrina would have been 27 years old. In recent years, there has been no progress or updates regarding the case. Sheriff's police officials have stated that the investigation remains open and that they are still searching for Sabrina. The National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children continues to update its age-progressed photo to help show what Sabrina might look like now. Meanwhile, despite their loss, Marlene and Steve have continued with their lives in Maryland, working in real estate and creating a website and social media profiles to offer their services. Their older children, William and Monica, are now adults with their own families, but as Marlene has said, they never forget their sister and continue to hold out hope that one day they will find her. The disappearance of Sabrina Aisenberg, when she was just a 5-month-old baby, became one of the most media-covered cases of its time, due in part to the suspicions surrounding her parents and the questionable actions of the police. What happened on the night of November 23rd and the early morning of November 24th, 1997, remains a mystery. We can only hope, as Marlene Aisenberg expressed in one of her recent interviews, that Sabrina was taken by someone who raised her with the same love and care that they would have given her. Now that you know Sabrina's story, the torment her family endured, and the twists and turns of the investigation, what do you think? Do you agree with the actions of the authorities, or do you think they were right to suspect the family? Share your thoughts in the comments.